morning, everybody. Crafting Journey here. Still cleaning up after the disaster that was last night. Thank you for watching the collage quilting, Craft With Me Wednesday collage quilting. The end result was amazing, but getting to that point was a little tedious. However, I had fun with you guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me. It's only once a month. Next week will probably be coloring. Yes, I'll get one of my friends that's a colorist and we'll bring them in here and we'll have a good time. So I got Alice out again. I had put her away yesterday because I needed to work on the collage quilt. But, you know, we're going to finish her up here. Hopefully I will find some time this evening. Work has been crazy. And as you guys know, yesterday I had a stress test. You could see me drinking water. Yes. This is my favorite kind of water. Propel fitness water. Anyway, where is all my supplies? Oh my God, it's on the floor. It's everywhere. Everywhere. Okay. Let's get something. All right. Let's give them something to talk about. It's only Thursday. I know. You're like, Rebecca, it's only Thursday. So I did the stress test yesterday. The doctor, he's so nice. He was in there the entire time with me. And he's like, you know, they cranked that thing up. Like, you know, I was going pretty good there. So he's like, are you having any chest pain? No. So I asked him, and I hadn't had any yesterday because you were not allowed to have any caffeine at all before the test. Like after midnight, could not have any caffeine, including chocolate. What? I will never give up chocolate. Sorry, we're not even going to have that conversation. So, no chest pain. So I said to him, you know, I haven't had any caffeine. Does that mean? And he's like, yep, that's logical, isn't it, Rebecca? Don't you think you should give it up? I'm like, oh no, literally. So, at that point, I was like, no, I'm not going to give it up. I'm sorry. I enjoy having my cup of coffee in the morning while I'm planning the show. I get up in the morning from the alarm clock morning, take the 8:15 into the city. No, sorry. I get up in the morning and I let the dogs out, you know, take my shower, make the coffee, and then I get a cup of coffee and I sit down in my lounge chair with my iPad and plan the show. So I'm going to go on the hunt for decaf today. There's a store downtown, not far from me, called the Spice Merchant, and they sell all kinds of coffees, including decaf, and all kinds of flavors, and they also have loose leaf tea and regular tea. And I'm not a tea person though. I don't love tea. So I'm gonna go get some decaf coffee today. So for now, I am drinking. I skipped a step, didn't I? So yes, I had said I wasn't going to give it up. So I come home from having my stress test. I picked up a sandwich on the way home and a lemonade, and this lemonade tasted terrible. I'm like, I want a cup of coffee. So I come home, I make a cup of coffee, I sit down to work, I'm in front of my computer, I call Mickey, I'm like, hey Mickey, what's going on? And I'm drinking the coffee, and about 10 minutes in, and I hadn't even drank half the cup yet. About 10 minutes sitting there, and like, oh my God, my chest hurts so bad. And so she's like, stop drinking the coffee. So I stopped drinking the coffee, and I didn't have any chest pain the rest of the day. So, and you know me, I love my flavored coffee. I just love it. So I will try to find some today. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. The good news is my heart is fine. I'm going to live. The doctor wants me to go back to the gym. Oh, what's my hair doing today? I just washed it. Anyway, yeah, go back to the gym. Stop making donations to the gym and just go. Because I'm like, I drive by there every day. And he's like, no, 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 that doesn't count. You got to go in. And really, it kind of felt good to be on the treadmill and kind of exercising. And, all right. Now I just got to figure out where I'm going to work that into my day. Maybe I'll meet somebody, like a really buff old man that wants a crafty old lady like me. I don't know. Oh, God, I'm so silly. Anywho, it's got a heavy rain could trigger flooding in your area. Well, I've got to go get that coffee soon. Right now, it's clear as day, and I've got to get these curtains up. That was the other thing, the show yesterday afternoon. Oh, my God. At 6 o'clock, when I sat down to do the show, the sun was like blinding me because I've got the rod there, the curtains there. I have to put the hardware up. And then I come home yesterday. My laundry room is flooded. The pipe backed up. So now I'm waiting for the plumber to come out. I'm like, what else? What else? I know. What else, right? God forbid. Yeah. Whatever. That's life, right? That's life. Okay. Yep, that's life, Rebecca. Okay, so I got a joke for you. Okay, Murphy's Law states anything that can go wrong will go wrong, right? That's what happened to me yesterday. Anything that could go wrong will go wrong. So what is Cole's Law? Yeah, have you ever heard of Cole's Law? I'll tell you what Cole's Law is. Shredded cabbage and carrots with mayonnaise and seasoning. And I love it. That was a dumb joke. That was a dumb joke. Okay, what national day is it? Is national. I'm telling you, I had like 8 things to choose from today. So I chose National Johnny Appleseed Day. What the heck did I do with it? Oh, here it is. National Johnny Appleseed Day. On March 11th, we celebrate Johnny Appleseed. This was a real person. I had no idea. He was born John Chapman in 1774 in Massachusetts, and his mother died when he was 2 years old, and his father and they moved to Springfield, Massachusetts. So when he got older, he set out barefoot, just walking around, can you imagine? He traveled around and he would help people build apple orchards and other fruit. It wasn't just apples, but he became known as Johnny Appleseed. And if he heard of an orchard that wasn't doing well, he would travel to wherever that was and nurse it back to health. So he started apple and fruit orchards all over this country. And even today, there's monuments to him everywhere. Some of his original trees are still alive and blooming. How did I get a leaf on my diamond painting? I have no idea. And he would take what little money that people would offer him. He didn't charge people really. He'd take what little money that people offered him, and he would buy Bibles, and he would give them away. And it was more like a missionary, he would help with the fruit trees, but he would also spread the gospel. So he was kind of like a missionary. But people would welcome them into their homes and feed him and take care of him, and then he'd go his barefoot way on to the next orchard, How cool is that? Johnny Appleseed. I had no idea that Johnny Appleseed was real, but he was. Do you know, you know how old I am. I'm not going to say it again. I've never seen an apple tree, like in person, stood in front of an apple tree. I'm from Florida, I grew up with orange trees, lemon trees, limes, bananas, all the tropical stuff, but I've never like stood in an apple orchard or stood by an apple tree and said, "Oh, I would like an apple." Never seen an apple tree. I need to go do that. So one of the things that you can do on Johnny Appleseed Day is go to your local grower and say, what kind of fruit tree would work well, because this is the planting season. That's why they celebrate this day in this national day in March, because this is planting season. Apples are not in season right now, so don't go run by apples, but find out what kind of fruit tree will grow in your area. I'm going to do that because I have a yard now. I know, watch me digging up the backyard, right? That's going to go so well. What is that woman up to now? She's digging in the backyard. Because I honestly don't know here in Wichita, like what's the, what kind of fruit trees to plant. So I'm gonna find out. And I did not know that fruit trees do better in pairs. Don't just buy one, buy two. Isn't that interesting? You'll get more fruit if you have two of the same tree. I thought that was very interesting. I had no idea. So, look how educational this show is. Now you know. The more you know, right? The more you know. Okay. Well, let's talk about my favorite segment, Judge, Jury, and Journey. So, well, let's do George Floyd murder trial first. Still in jury selection, and some of you subscribers are watching it. Thank you for watching it more in detail than I am. I really have not had time to actually watch or listen to the jury selection. I tune in every now and then, and I always seem to catch the breaks. They're like, "Oh, we're on a break. We're on a break." So, okay. Or they come back from the break, and what happens is the judge is bringing them in a few at a time, 7, or I don't know how many he's bringing in at a time, but he brings in a whole group of them at a time, and then he questions. He gives them the ground rules, and he questions them, and then he sends them out to the lobby, and then he brings them in one at a time for the lawyers to question, and it's the similar questions that I told you about yesterday. So now we are up to, it's going pretty fast, actually. They've got 5 jurors already. So I told you they're going to pick 16, so they got 11 more to go. And this is Thursday. I thought this thing was going to, last 3-4 weeks, this jury selection, but, it's going very, very fast. But here's what happened yesterday. So yesterday, the Supreme Court, and I don't know if you guys remember, I told you, the third-degree murder charge is still up in the air. We don't know if that's going to be part of this trial or not. So the appellate court, there's the judge, there's the appellate court, there's the Supreme Court. Well, the judge said no. They took it to the appellate court. The appellate court ruled that the trial judge has to reconsider, that his ruling was wrong. And then he must reconsider allowing that charge back in. So the prosecution and the defense appealed that ruling to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court can say, yes, we would like to hear that, or no, we would not like to hear that. Yesterday, the Supreme Court said, we're not going to hear that. So what that means is the Supreme Court has now said no. Now it's back to the appellate court. Now the appellate court has to say, okay, our ruling is final. We're going to enter judgment. Once they enter judgment, then the trial judge can reconsider the third-degree murder charge, which means essentially this trial is not going to be delayed. We thought perhaps if the Supreme Court did accept the case, this trial would be delayed for months. But that's not going to happen. So I expect that they're going to meet at 8 o'clock this morning to hear, the judge wants to hear arguments on what should happen next. And then I expect he will make a ruling on that third-degree murder charge coming into the trial very soon, if not this morning, sometime before jury selection ends, and the trial will move forward. So I think that's kind of cool. So that's the George Floyd murder case. Now, the Teresa Sievers murder case. Yesterday, the defense got to cross-examine Curtis Wayne Wright. Now, as you recall, he is one of two gentlemen that actually committed the physical murder. So, and the demeanor of this defense attorney is awful. Just awful. I think I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but he's very stern, and he stands at the podium when he's asking questions. Oh, this chair. Mickey says, get a new chair. It's not that the chair, it's just that it's on carpet, and it doesn't want to go anywhere. So I have to get one of those things that you can put chairs on. Look, I have wings today. I'm so off base here. I need my coffee. So anyway, he stands at the podium, and if he's asking a question and the prosecution objects, he gets really mad, and he stands there and he waits for the judge to rule on the objection, and then he goes on with his question. But he looks like, how dare you? Like, how dare you object? Like, he's very pompous, and I didn't understand his questioning. Like, why are you trying to discredit this guy? I guess, I think he was trying to bait him. He wanted to get him angry, and the guy just stuck to his story, and he stayed calm. He never lost his temper. He just, answered the questions. I mean, he's already in jail. What's he got to worry about, right? But you could, and he was being very argumentative with this guy. And the guy just wasn't having it. He just like, well, okay, I thought that was very good. I think, I don't know, I would fire this if he was my attorney. I'd be like, you're fired. I'll defend myself. He's just terrible. He really is. And that Mark Sievers is writing away. He's writing. I don't know what he's writing, but I don't know what he did for a living. I haven't figured that out yet. So then they put on the stand the sister of Teresa Sievers. Very beautiful woman. And basically, she wasn't on the stand long, really. And she just testified that they had that family gathering up in Connecticut. She lives in Connecticut, but they had the family gathering. They rented a house in New York for the weekend, and they had like a big family reunion, and everybody came and they played, and and Sunday everybody left and went home, except for Mark and the girls. Mark and the girls went to visit the mother in Connecticut. Him and the girls wanted to spend time with Grandma. Okay. So that was her testimony. And then, the defense, and I'm thinking, oh no, here comes that defense attorney. I hope he does not beat up this woman. I mean, this is the same woman that was bawling in the courtroom the day before. You don't do that. So, and he didn't. Luckily he was smart, and he asked a couple questions, but he was very nice to her, and so that it really didn't amount to much, really. Did you love your sister? Of course I love my sister, blah blah blah. So then they put on Dr. Potato, I don't know, something with a P. Potatoes, tomato. Anyway, he is a retired surgeon out of Fort Myers. A very good friend of Teresa Sievers. And he said, they met in medical school, became friends. They were both doing a surgical rotation. I don't think she did not go on to become a surgeon. He did. But, and this was up in New York where they met. So later they lost touch, and he moved his family down to Florida. And he said he was in the hospital one day to do surgeries, and he ran into her, and he was very surprised. So they, became fast friends again. And if one of her patients needed surgery, she would refer her patients to him. And as a surgeon, if somebody didn't have a primary doctor, he would refer patients to her. And they didn't live far apart, so their families became acquainted. They would have barbecues and picnics and that kind of thing. But he said he never became really close to Mark. He's like, we didn't go to football games or hang out or do guy things. He says he was just kind of an acquaintance. So you can imagine his surprise when that Sunday night, Teresa's on her way. She's flying home, and this guy gets a voicemail from, he checks his phone, and there's a voicemail from Mark Sievers on his phone saying, hey, I was just checking on you. My wife's flying home, and the girls and I are here. She's coming back tonight. The girls and I are coming back Wednesday. And, I just wanted to say hi. And he thought it was really strange. He's like, this guy doesn't call me. What's he's checking on me? Well, I don't need to be checked on. And he just thought it was a really odd phone call. Then Mark Sievers calls the next day, another voicemail. And they played the voicemails. You could hear the voicemails. Calls the next day and says, hey, and this was like about 9:30 in the morning. Hey, the office called, and Teresa's not at work yet, and that's very unusual, and they're worried about her. Could you go over and check on her? And here's the code to the garage so you can get in. What? And he listens to the voicemail, and he's like, what? So he calls him as he's now he's on his way over to Teresa's house, but he's got Mark on the phone, and he's like, hey, what's the deal? Why are you calling me? What? And he's like, well, they haven't heard from my wife, and she's never late for work, and maybe she just overslept. Can you go check on her? And so he says, he was not going to use that garage code and just go in Teresa's house. She could be in the shower, whatever. So he's knocking on the door. No answer. So when he doesn't get an answer, then he's getting a little concerned. So he uses the garage code, and he opens the garage door, and her car is there. And then he goes towards the entrance, and he sees her suitcase. And he walks in, and he's calling her name as he's walking through the laundry room to get into the house. He's calling her name, no answer. And immediately, as he enters the main, that open concept portion of the house, he sees her on the floor, dead. And now he's a physician. He's like, oh, they're like, how'd you know she was dead? He's like, well, she had this gaping head wound. There was blood everywhere. He says, I did touch the body, and it was cold, which told me that she had been dead for some time. He says, so I immediately went outside, called Mark back, and said, you need to come home immediately. And that's all he said. He didn't tell him anything. He said, you need to come home immediately. So then he called 911. And as soon as the rescue guys got there, he hung up with 911, called Mark back, and told him, listen, your wife's, I found her, she's severely injured, you need to come home. He did not want to tell him, your wife's dead, because he said that's kind of the thing you just don't tell somebody over the phone. He says, I didn't feel like it was my place to deliver that news. I could imagine that he didn't really want to do that. And that was really the extent of his involvement. He said, I gave the police a statement, and that's it. What else happened yesterday? I think that was pretty much. I'm trying to think if there was another witness. No, I think that was it for the day yesterday. So those are the two trials, guys. I don't know what you think, but what do you think happened this day in history? Let's take a look. Oh, March 11th, 1989. Cops debuts on television. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys. Like that song became a hit, that reggae song. But that show was like one of the longest running shows on television. Now, I don't know if it still is. Grey's Anatomy's been on a pretty darn long time. I think Grey's Anatomy started when I was born. But this premiered in 1989. Documentary-style television series. At the time this started, there was a writer's strike. So the two gentlemen that created the show, they pitched it. They said, listen, there's no script. You don't have to worry about writers. It's unscripted. We're just going to follow these guys around with cameras. And the first season, they followed around the Broward County Sheriff's Office, which I was very familiar with because I lived in Broward County at that time. So it was super interesting to watch that show. I loved that show. I don't know about you guys, but I love to watch like the naked people with that are high on drugs and they're running around with no clothes on and the cops are chasing them. It was usually always something, or there'd be some drunk chick, yelling and screaming, and it was a good show. But it didn't go off the air until like 2020. Yeah, it stayed on a pretty good long time. There was another, also on this day in history. In 1927 was the first armored car robbery. These guys robbed an armored car, a Brinks truck in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm trying to find my next. Where is it? 24. They got $104,000, which today that would be worth, about $2 million. Yeah. $2 million these guys got away with. Can you believe that? So, somebody got the license plate and they were caught, and the one guy, the leader of this gang, was sentenced to die because he had murdered a couple people in some other robbery, not the Brinks truck robbery, but he escapes from jail and then they recapture him, and then this guy is just horrible. He gets out again, and then he's finally recaptured and put to death, and not until 2 years later, 1929. He was a bad guy. Stay away from me. Stay away. So that is this day in history. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys. I'm gonna be singing that all day long. Oh my God. Jakey's got his little spot right here. I actually had the heater on because this weather is crazy. It got so hot yesterday in this house, I had to turn the air conditioning on. And then last night, it got so cold, I had to turn it off. And I took Tootsie's sweater off, and you could tell she was not comfortable sleeping last night. She was so close to me, like, Mom, I'm cold. because I do like it to be a little cool at night. I like it to be, in the, like 68 is a good temp. I know Marissa would laugh at me. She's like, no, 63. But 68, 69, that's a pretty comfortable temperature for me to sleep. But Tootsie was cold. I felt bad for her, but she doesn't need the sweater now. It's March, so, I will put them away till next winter, because there is not going to be any more snow, right? Are we all in agreement? We're done with winter? Okay. I'm glad we're all on the same page. So, guys, that is the morning show today. I've got work to do. I've got to find some decaf coffee. This is what I'm like with no caffeine. Can you imagine? Bad boys, bad boys. Bye, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow in the morning.